Believe it or not, it's been almost 3 years since we had Supaman, aka Chris Parrish, on the show. He's a native hip hop artist, and I'm not sure if he's still competitive powwow dancing, but he used to be. And we had a great chat about. I can't believe it's been 3 years ago. So welcome back to the show, Supaman. How's it going?
Yo, it's going good. I'm still tripping about that 3 years. I was like, dang, was that 3 years ago? It seemed like last year.
I know. I just looked it up now. I cannot believe it.
That's kind of what I was thinking
That's
too. Was it was
crazy.
like a year and a half.
Yeah.
But I know it was episode 137.
So sorry, it was probably like 2.5 years ago, but still, I
Yeah.
mean, lots of times gone by. Lots has happened. How you been these days?
Yeah, life is good, man. Just always progression, always elevating and moving forward. So, yeah, it's been good, man. Life is good. I got no complaints.
That's good. Are you still doing your hip hop thing quite a bit?
Yep. That's all I do, man. This is just life right here. I just got back from Michigan, and I was home. Now I'm headed to South Dakota, and headed to Cheyenne River Red. After that, I'll be going down to El Paso. And, man, this month is crazy. El Paso to freaking Auburn, California, back to Phoenix, over to, where am I going? Rutgers, New Jersey, Mohawk Valley. Yeah, it's a busy month.
Any plans to come to Canada soon?
Yeah, I'll actually be over in Canada at the end of the month over at Mi'kmaq Reyes.
Whereabouts is that?
It's over there by Halifax.
Oh yeah, that's way
over the east coast. Yep.
When do you figure you'll make it out west again? I think because you were in Banff, I think, but it was like 2 months before we found you.
Yeah, yep, that's right. Yep, and I'll be up in Canada for not in Alberta, but over for the Indigenous Music Awards. They're having that in Winnipeg. We'll be up there.
Oh, I could probably
got nominated for 3. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations!
Nice.
Which ones?
Yeah, I think you got nominated for Best Video, nominated for Best Producer, and Best Album, Best Hip Hop Album.
Which video?
It's a new video I had called Godly Warriors.
Perfect. We'll throw the links to those in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. It's dope, man. It's something different than the loop, the looping videos that people are kind of used to. This is just that boom bap raw hip hop stuff,
What was your inspiration for that one?
Just a lot, just producing and making beats, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it this style because I had a good sample. I was working on this beat, and I had like a little powwow sample in there, and it just sounded dope. And I had the verse that I did with Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas. We connected, and we did a song for Standing Rock last year called Stand Up. And he reached out to me during that time with some other amazing artists, and he's like, "Yo, can you rap in your language? Can you rap in your language?" I was like, "Yeah, I can." He's like, "All right, I want you to rap in your language on this song." So I did, and there's so many artists on there. They had to cut my verse kind of short. I had like 4 bars on there, which is awesome. I'm just amazing. It's just an amazing opportunity. And then and so I still had some language left, for the verse. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put this on this beat I was making. I'm gonna do that, the whole verse to that song on here, and then I'm gonna do a video for it and put the translation, on the screen, so people who don't know, my language, the Apsalia language, can see that, on the screen. And it's a water is life type of verse, so it's all power to the medicine of water.
Nice. So that's the gist of your message, is that water is life, go with the flow, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yep. That the first part is, I'm rapping over a hand drum over the first part, and then it kind of goes into just some live cuts, some DJ Premier type vibes, and then I just have, it's a collaboration with an East Coast MC over there in Rhode Island named Passionate MC. He's an amazing underground artist. And he's native, too, from over there, the Narragansett, I think. I forgot the name of how they pronounce their tribe. But, yeah, it was dope.
Go ahead, Dan.
I do have actually more questions than usual from the chats to get to a little bit later. But before we get to that, and before I forget, I do want to mention that I do have two daughters, Madison and Cassandra. One's Madison's 6, she'll be 7 soon. And Cassandra's 4, and they're both I guess they'd only be 30% native or so, a little less than me. But yeah, they're both. For both of them, you're their favorite musician, so they wanted to say hello.
Yo, that's crazy. Yeah, tell them I said what's up. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they were listening to some music today, actually trying to come up with some questions, but they're still a little bit young for that.
Yeah.
But they're both looking forward to in the next year or so to start making some jingle dresses, which they actually really, when they watched your video a few years ago, that's kind of what really got my oldest Madison really sort of down that road and interested in it, and she just hasn't given it up, and we're kind of ready to go down that. So when we asked them today if they had any questions, they both asked the same questions, was how do you make a jingle dress? So I was just wondering if you could kind of take us through, obviously not the logistics of making the dress, but maybe sort of the process as you know it from your band.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, that's dope. First of all, that's dope that your daughters are inspired, to like come into the circle, man. That's from seeing that video, because that's a contemporary, that's two cultures together, hip hop culture and native culture. But to be inspired, to want to come into the circle and dance, from seeing the video, that's like powerful, to me. So thank you for sharing that. There was another kid who just hit me up today. It's kind of weird. Hit me up today and he said, yo, I just started fancy dancing. I got my outfit together, and I'm coming into the circle, and I just want to thank you for inspiring me. I wanted to be a fancy dancer like you. And I was like, man, that's cool to see that the natives are getting inspired, to follow their culture, even though it's it's kind of like a contemporary hip hop, collective, musically what I do is that way. But they're like, yo, I want to dance, so that's good. Props. So the jingle dress is it's not from my tribe, it's from the Ojibwe tribe.
That's actually sorry to interrupt you, but that's actually what our background is, Ojibwe.
Oh, is that right? Okay, yeah. Dope. Then yo, you're right there then. Yeah, you just you're connected with that dance, that medicine dance. So me, like Upsaloga, we don't, that's not ours, that's not our dance. Like even the dance that I do is adopted, fancy and contemporary. And so like, I don't even know like the protocols that go, along with, your tribe. But as for myself, just when we come into the circle is, we usually have, excuse me, we usually have we feed our clans, and we have them pray for us. And then we ask a veteran or, military person, a warrior, of the tribe, somebody we might look up to or who might be our clan, lead us out, into the circle. And then we'll have somebody announcing, you have to have the right to announce, the speaker to speak to the people. And then you have the drum, sing either your family song or your district song or, a song that you want to come out with. And then you start announcing, and then your family will dance behind you. And you come out to the circle, and the announcer lets everybody know, hey, this is so-and-so, they're coming out, their first dance, and they kind of tell the people their accomplishments, maybe, if they were into sports or whatever, they would announce, hey, they're a good basketball player, or they're part of this, and their parents are these people, and they've done these things, in life, and then that's how we come out. We come out into the circle, in that way, kind of our protocols as a Taluga. So everybody's different, all tribes. So I wouldn't really know the Ojibwe way to do it.
I would imagine. I mean, we've done some looking into it for sure, and it all sort of follows that same sort of
Hmm.
outlook of reaching out and using your elders and doing it with a lot of intention and you can't go buy it at
Definitely.
the you can't go buy one. We figured out that real quick. You've got to sort of make it yourself from scratch and put a lot of heart into
For
it.
sure. Yeah, yep, definitely. Usually, when the people want to dance, the whole family, gets excited, and that they all kind of chip in and help that individual, have an outfit.
So on that same
Good.
same vein, we do have a question from the chats here that did you learn to fancy dance as a little kid? Who taught you? And what was the experience like? How stressful was it?
Stressful. I like that. I started fancy dancing when I was in junior high. Before that, when I came out to the circle, I came out as, my tribe. We Crow traditional. We have a significant dance called the Crow traditional, or we call it Crow hot dancing. And so that's how I came out. I started as a co-traditional dancer, and then later on, we'd watch the fancy dancers, at powwows, and they were just so energetic and look fun. Look more fun than the traditional style. And I always ask my mom, like, Mom, I wanna dance that dance, and she's like, Nope, that's a different tribe. We don't do that. That's not us. That's Oklahoma. Those people come from Oklahoma, and so kind of shot us down. But we go back to the camp, at Crow Fair, and then we grab cottonwood leaves, branches, and then we have a cooler that's at the camp, and we would sing songs, and we'd have our own fancy dance, competition at the camp, and they kind of just watch us, kind of laugh at us and say, hey, look at these guys, they wanna be fancy dancers, me and my brother and my cousin, we'd have our own fancy dance contests, and then later on, we'd see more people adopting other tribes' styles, like fancy or, grass and, jingle, stuff like that. And it's kind of accepted, people are just like kind of going with it and it was okay. So I said, Mom, I want to fancy dance. So she finally let me start dancing fancy. And that was just pure passion. I loved it. I loved dancing. We'd practice, all the time before I was even a fancy dancer. We dance in the living room, have our own little contest, play the fancy dance songs, and I just loved it so much, and so there was no stress about it whatsoever. It's actually the opposite. It's therapy and stress relief. For me, when I'm fancy dancing or I'm dancing out there, it's a good feeling. It's just like a spiritual. It's a good spiritual place to be.
Would you liken it almost to like maybe the sort of the zone you can get into playing a sport?
Yeah, definitely. You kind of get into that euphoric feeling. There's something called a runner's high, I've heard, like for runners. And, you just, when you get in that zone, that's how it is when you powwow, when you dance. To me, anyway, when I get out there and there's a good song, playing, and I just start cutting loose and dancing, and you kind of lose yourself, in the moment, and you're just, the people are watching too. The people are checking you out, and you dance for them. And like those are the values, that I was taught about powwow culture, about the circle is that's who you're dancing for. You're dancing for the people who are watching you, because some of them can't dance, they're in wheelchairs, they're disabled, some of them are sick in their bodies, need a healing. Some of them, lost loved ones, their hearts are heavy. And so I was told those are the people you dance for, because when they watch you, you have to have a good heart when you come out to the circle, have a good heart. And if your heart's in a good place, they'll watch you and they can see your heart. And if they see your heart's in a good place, then their spirit's uplifted and healing takes place. So you kind of go out there with that mentality, that, hey, you have a purpose, when you dance. It's not just for looks or for money, stuff like that, because that element is definitely in the circle nowadays. But you have those kind of values when you go out there, knowing that there's people watching you. You make your family proud. You make your people proud.
Yeah, I can see that helping because otherwise, I mean, I don't know. I'd be self-conscious. I'd be self-conscious. I find that that'd be hard to do, But I mean, maybe that's the culture that we grow up in here, where it's like fear of, people either ridiculing you or making fun of you or like that type of thing. Like I know some people just love being
Right.
entertainers, but a lot of people have that
Hmm.
fear. Just dancing even in anywhere is difficult for some people. So I like the whole
Yeah,
part
yeah,
about
definitely.
the love and the heart and like that you're doing it for other people. That might help. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think like the parents, and grandparents, those values there, like always need to be taught before a kid even dances, even before they want to dance. Teach them that value, that just kind of like a responsibility, that comes along with it, and a prideful, a power empowering, when we're out there, because it is a spiritual act. It's more than just the physical manifestation of dance.
Hmm. Yeah.
So obviously your culture and your heritage is a huge part of the one side of your music. I've got another question here in the chats of who the top 5 rappers that have influenced you.
Top five MCs, man. That's always an ongoing, changing, list for me. I could name a few, like Tino XL is always, the top one. Shout out to Tino. Tino XL is like one of the top lyricists ever, man. Like Punchline King. He's really clever. He's like part of Mensa. He's a genius. Eminem, of course, he's dope, man. He changed the game with his rhymes, with me anyway, inspired me. Jizza from Wu-Tang Clan. The whole Wu-Tang Clan's dope. Sticky Fingers from Onyx. Black Thought from The Roots. So that would be 5 right there. There's plenty more, man. There's like Exhibit, Rough Voices, MOP. There's a lot. New School Cats, Kendrick, J. Cole, and there's a lot. I like Fabulous. Who else? Busta Rhymes, of course. I'm always old school.
Does the intention and the message mean a lot to you when you're like with the people that you like growing up to, like some of your idols?
No, not really. It's just the vibe. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's some crazy cats out there that say some crazy stuff, but I vibe with it. I'll play MOP, and they're just talking about, like, take chains off, robbing people and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I like that vibe. I just, it feels good. I'm not gonna go rob anybody, but I
Yeah.
just like the feel of their music.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
the whole vibe of it is dope.
Yeah. So what were you doing when you're traveling around? Like lately, you're going all over the states. Are you touring with the hip hop? Are you still doing the other stuff where you're helping some of the natives through addiction and alcoholism and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. It's always it goes hand in hand. Like the hip hop and the things that I do are always hand in hand. So even if I'm just performing at a club, which I did, like in Minneapolis, I performed over there. It's just like, hey man, we're gonna have a hip hop show, and I told my story, when I was on stage. I mean, people were like drunk in the crowd and everything, and I just said, hey, this is why I don't drink, and stuff like that. And just kind of let them know on a human being level, like.
Yeah.
These are the choices that I make, and I always, try to inspire that, anybody in the crowd that might be struggling, or whatever. Just try to keep on a good level with everybody. But that work is always with me, no matter where I go. If it's in the club, or if it's at a conference, or wherever I'm booked at a festival, I'm always sharing, my story, hopefully to inspire somebody, to be a better human being themselves, be better than they were yesterday.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I was just reading that actually in that book I just read, talked about that, about how to just compare yourself to who you were yesterday every day and just try and improve on that a little bit. I actually went so
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's all about.
it's been about a quarter of a decade, which isn't a lot of time in the scheme of things, but have you noticed, any sort of glimmers of hope in the suicide problem?
In the suicide problem, that's like, I don't even know the statistics of that, like over the time, but I sure hope so. Like I definitely hope so, and I think there's more of an awareness for sure. And people are more aware because social media and just like people like what's his name had a good song. He was at the VMAs when we were there this summer. What's his name? Logic. He has that song about suicide, and kind of highlighted that and so yeah, I would hope that things are getting better. I don't really know, but yeah, I definitely hope they are.
Interesting. So I mean I feel like there's more awareness about the heavy drug problems as well, like the fentanyl stuff. I mean, I feel like even though it seems like some of that stuff's getting worse, I feel like there's more awareness around the dangers and that there is a solution. Like I didn't know 10 years ago that you could get clean and sober, right? I mean, I just didn't know that was possible, that there was there was the recovery programs and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like that even in the last 10 years, like I just passed my 10-year date, my clean and sober date. And I think back then, like there's so much more awareness just in that decade. So
yep.
And I think you sharing your message on stage to all these people and being able to get up there and perform in a sober state is very important for that, to spread that message.
Yeah, for sure. I think the awareness is just like you said. It's more accessible now. It's just up in people. Just like smoking too. Like people, like kids are like, oh no way, I ain't gonna smoke. Like they have all this info. From TV and the info and the promotions that go against smoking and the facts. Just basic facts. And so it's like almost going against being cool. Smoking now, which is freaking dope. Because I used to buy cigarettes from my mom, when I was a kid. It was like nothing. And secondhand smoke was just around me all the time, and it was like normal life. And so nowadays, I think I see it's changing. The culture of influence is changing. So I definitely hope it's going in that direction, for those things like suicide and drug addiction, any kind of addiction like that.
Yeah, I hope so.
I like to think the addiction problems going down. I know in Canada, at least, we're starting to have a lot more awareness on the Aboriginal women problem and going missing. I know that's been a huge problem here, but
that's not doesn't normally get enough attention, probably.
Well, it just kind of started getting attention in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, people have been screaming about it for the better part of a decade, but it's finally starting to, gain a little bit of traction.
Yeah.
It seems to take a while in Canada, anyways.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. It's good to see. Like I just remember somebody kind of like talking about that, and there was no database of the natives, and I was like, wow, you don't even think of it sometimes. You don't even think about it if it's not really, you don't have like a relative missing or something. You kind of just like are on the outside, and then just to see, just to hear about it, about how bad it was. They're like, oh, dang, we definitely need to highlight this, especially as an artist. I started highlighting it myself, doing the hashtags and just trying to bring that awareness after you hear about it. And so I think a lot of people are doing that. And with the Native community, that's the good thing because they're always promoting, positive things, like the, like anybody doing something good for the community, they back them up and they share it and everything like that. That's the good thing about our people is they want to help, in some way. They want to bring some positivity, to our people.
Well, I also feel like there's a big awareness now of spiritual practices and different practices around the world, and that people are looking now at the Native community and the traditional practice of just being, more spiritual and one with the land and all the reverence and respect that you guys have for, like you were talking about with the heart practice and all these things that people are finally, I think they're waking up to it a little bit more on a global level as well. And that must affect you. I think that must affect your community just for people just getting more spiritual, even if they're reaching it through, psychedelics or meditation or yoga, like even if they're reaching it through Eastern practices or whatever type of practice it is, it all overlaps. Like all the spiritual stuff is kind of connected.
Yeah, I agree. Like I grew up like in church, in like Christianity, you know, baptized Catholic and everything, and even did my early albums like just straight up Christian stuff. You know, you like hear I just like was a part of that culture, you know, Western church Christian culture, and so I was like really a part of that. But as you grow older, you know, you get more knowledge, and then you just kind of start doing critical thinking, and you're like, yo, this is crazy, you know, like we're natives, and like, oh, you know, you just kind of like look at it in that way. But I can never deny like the spiritual power that I experienced in that realm, you know, in that circle of prayer, and just I've seen some amazing things, you know, just in my walk with the Creator in that realm, you know.
In both realm, in which realm, in the Christian realm, or
yeah, in the Christian realm, like I've seen some incredible things, and so I never just like right now I'm really, I mean, we're all on a journey, you know, we're all on a journey, and but me, my views of Christianity are really different, you know, they're really changed than I was, you know, like a while back, you know, like really changed, and so I don't like to take that label no more, you know, like somebody says, "Are you a Christian?" I don't like to say, "Yes, I'm a Christian," you know, I don't take that label anymore. The way Christians like look at other religions and say, "Oh, that's evil," or Native ways are evil. I don't have that view. You know, I don't believe that. Just like you said, you know, that's all connected. That's how I believe. I believe it's all connected, and it's just greater than our thinking. You know, like if you're an astronaut and you go out into outer, somebody said that they were an astronaut and they went out to outer space and looked at how tiny the Earth was and how big the universe was, and they're just like, oh my God, this is stupid. You know, all the things that we, you know, nitpick about in religion and race, and it's just so dumb, you know, when you have a different perspective. And so I always try to keep my perspective, you know, really open to everything and everybody's belief, to respect it, you know, and know that we are all on a journey. And I can always, you know, talk about my experiences, you know, my spiritual experiences that I can't deny, and also, you know, what's in store for me, you know, tomorrow or the next day is just, I just want to continue to spread that love, you know, like you can never deny that, you know, you can never deny kindness and love from no matter what religion you're from.
What's the general feeling in the rest of the hip hop community? Like, because we still live in this paradigm where, you know, materialism rules, and the skepticism out there about anything beyond our physical realm, you know, is still sort of, you know, it's still, you know, running our schools and running, you know, the government and stuff like that. But we're all kind of, a lot of us are waking up to this central theme that we're all connected and all. What's the hip hop community like in that regard? Are they pretty atheistic, or are they sort of have more of a spiritual depth to them?
Yeah, I think there's an opening, you know, there's an awakening in the hip hop community. Even like, I mean, before you couldn't be gay and rap, you know, it was like, no way, you know, like it was just like hip hop was like anti-gay, you know, all the time. And now there's like, you know, all kinds of gay rappers, you know, out there like that. So the whole culture is changing, mentality is changing, and just the generations are different. And so they have access to more information now, you know, on the internet, and they can like think for themselves and kind of like, you know, like get some information and just kind of base their perception on that information, you know, whether that's like a universal, you know, thinking, or, you know, it's not as closed-minded as it used to be.
Yeah, totally.
Here's one for you. You were talking earlier about how the different tribes, or in Canada we call them bands or tribes, or how they've kind of come together, and maybe, you know, a generation or two ago you couldn't be dancing the dances of other tribes, and now it's kind of all mixing together, and that's okay. There's this new huge push of cultural appropriation, you know, and all this, and I kind of come from the side of it that there's enough that our culture is kind of disappearing, and has disappeared far enough already, that if people want to appropriate it, then the more power to them, as long as they're doing it in a respectful manner. It actually comes up in our family because I mean, I'm only half Native, and and my wife is Métis. So I mean,
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
yeah, and so actually, Cassandra Madison was wearing her moccasins, and she had some native guy gave him shit out in Bragg Creek. Mentioned it.
Oh, I didn't know it
About
was
that
a
she
native
shouldn't be
guy.
wearing
that
the
did that. I
moccasins,
thought it was
yeah.
somebody else in a store or something.
Yeah, it was out in the store in Bragg Creek. So I think, you know, I was just wondering what your thought was on that, saying as you're sort of broadcasting it to the world. And I imagine there's all sorts of interest from all sorts of different races and cultures that, you know, when I look at your videos with millions of views, you know, you must be getting all sorts of people interested in the native culture. And I, for one, think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that cultural appropriation is a good thing as long as it's done with respect.
So not on Halloween.
Yeah.
Then?
Yep.
I'm okay with Halloween too, man. Really,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's just don't be a dick about it.
Yeah.
Just don't be racist. Just don't be a dick about it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think the more we fucking focus in on this, I think that makes it worse.
Yeah.
I really do.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think we've swung too far in some ways, and that just makes it even worse. You know, you're being racist by trying not to be racist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely a sensitive issue like that, you know, for a lot of natives. Like, just the way the people do it, like, I don't know, like me, like if I see somebody wearing who's white, or like if they're black and they were wearing like the native Halloween costume that they bought, you know, I'd probably laugh, you know, I'd laugh. It'd be funny to me, but at the same time, I'd wish they wouldn't do that, you know. I'd be like, nah, you don't want to do that, because all the stuff that we wear, it has like a deep, you know, meaning. Like everything we do as natives, like it has like it comes from spiritual, you know, everything like comes from our spiritual foundation. And so like for somebody to like do that in that way, yeah, it is kind of like it's kind of like offensive, you know, to a lot. But at the same time, when you know where you are and where you come from, you can just you can laugh about it. You know, you can laugh like, oh, that person doesn't know. You know, they're uneducated, they're ignorant to that issue about that. And then so it's good to have that education and that dialogue, you know, with the people who don't really know. And especially what I do, like you were saying, you know, like I'm mixing two cultures together, you know, like hip hop, and they were even saying Bruno Mars was doing cultural appropriation from black culture, you know, and I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, he's taking black culture and he's making it his. It's not right. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. It just kind of blew my mind. I had to like take a step back and like, all right, where is this person coming from with this? So the style of music, the lady was saying that it was black culture. And then again, my thinking, like when it comes to culture, if I'm thinking about black culture, I'm thinking like African culture, you know, tribal culture that comes from Africa, that's rooted in spirituality. You know, that's what I think of if I'm really going to think about black, you know, black culture. That's what I think of is like that root, the foundation of the African culture, you know, that comes from tribal and it's rooted in spirituality. And so for them to say, yeah, that's cultural appropriation, I just thought, no, that's just pop culture. You know, that's pop culture appropriation. He's just using pop culture, American pop culture, with his music. So I don't know. Everybody has a different perspective and everything. And so as you guys are saying, you know, to do it respectfully, that's where it's at. You know, like I put the two together with the intention of, you know, affecting the listener in a positive way. And also like, hey, I inspired some natives to want to dance, you know, want to embrace their culture and dig deep more into who they were. And so when you have those kind of intentions, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We're getting to the point now where they're talking about appropriating, you know, a sector of pop culture.
Yeah.
You know? That's a really good point.
Yeah.
You're appropriating
it's tricky.
subculture.
Yeah,
and, you know, it's just going to get...
Where does it stop?
Yeah. Subculture appropriation.
Yeah.
Subcultural appropriation.
Hashtag.
You're appropriating
subculture.
Yeah, we could even go as far as say you're appropriating our counterculture. Counterculture appropriation.
That's what InfoWars is
There you
doing.
go.
Yeah, exactly.
Reverse. We're
Yeah,
doing reverse culture appropriation.
yeah. So, how are some of the other ways that you incorporate your culture? Speaking of that, into your music, like, is there some other spiritual practices, and how do you, like, come up with some of your your lyrics, your creativity, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like the video "Why" on the song "Why."
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm adding that gourd rattle in there, that comes from a spiritual foundation, which is the NAC, Native American peyote. If you know anything about peyote religion, and so that comes from that spirituality practice. And so I actually come from that. My grandpa, his name was Frank Texagan. He was the president of the Native American Church, which is peyote. And he did amazing work. Like when they were raiding, when they went down to, when the Navajo Nations were starting their ceremonies, like the cops started raiding them, and throwing them to jail, like saying, yeah, you guys got this drug called peyote, you guys are possessing drugs, and they threw them in jail. And then my grandpa, who had been into some court cases already for the peyote meetings up north on our res, he went down there, to help them because he knew about the law and everything. And then he ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court, to fight for this right of the spiritual practice of NAC,
Wow.
Native American Church. Yeah, and so they won. Like him and some other great men, they fought the Supreme Court and they won, back in the day. And so when people practice this peyote religion, these ceremonies, it's because of that, those court cases that were won. And so that's just, back home, he was his grandpa at home. I found out about this stuff like when he passed away, that how a great man that he was and where I came from connected with that. And so it's always an honor to share that part, in even in that realm of cultural, putting those two together. So that hook that you hear, that chorus, that's a NAC style. That's like a prayerful melody style of singing there.
Wow, that's a great story. Yeah, one of the few churches that like, I don't know if psychedelic's the right word, but one of the few,
that it's legal in.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
like it was like the first one to win.
Yeah, that's
that
amazing.
Was like
that's really paving
the
the way.
wedge in the door.
Because that opens up a whole bunch of.
Well, that'll open up for ayahuasca and everything. Have you ever tried a peyote journey?
Yeah, yep. That's the medicine. That's the sacrament that we use when they pray in the meetings.
Is that like I've tried psilocybin and stuff like that. I would love to do that in like the proper setting. Is that like so? Is that a coming of age thing that you would do, say, as an entrance to manhood, or how does the first time come to play, and what role does it play in your evolution as a man?
Well, sometimes, like some tribes have different beliefs. Sometimes they don't want kids, in there until like they're 18 or like they graduate. Like graduation is kind of like one of the times where they have a peyote meeting, for the kids, or like that when they're kind of getting a little bit older, but they don't really try to take the kids in there too much that I know of. And so, yeah, it's kind of like that, like, they'll do for graduations and things like that, different ceremonies.
What about the vision? Would you do a vision quest, Darren? Like, what about that when you walk? Is that part of your culture, Chris, where you walk? I think you go, you walk away you go away into the bush for like 3 or 4 days or something. And
yeah, that is actually our fast. We do fasting.
Yeah,
like the older, like the chiefs and our people, that was our spirituality. Like when you see crows, Upsala, where I come from, when you see them practicing the sun dance, that's an adopted, that's an adopted spiritual practice. We got ours from the Shoshones, the sun dance. And so it's like, I think like crows, they mainly did that. They fasted and they prayed out in the mountains, alone, or they would take like a friend, 2 at a time, or I don't know, just different ways. But they would fast and pray, and they would get these visions, and get this power, get these messages from the Creator or these beings, and they would receive like power, medicine or like helpers, things like that to help you in life, at war, or just having wisdom, in life.
It's so interesting how, you're that culture isn't the only one that fasting is a big part of, and now they're finding through science and all this other biohacking stuff that fasting is so important to healing. There's some of the best scientists and doctors are coming up with cancer protocols that include this fasting. I mean, and then here these cultures around the world have been doing it for millennia, as a part of their regular spiritual practice, which includes kind of like a detox or like a cleaning out of your whole system as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a good thing. Like the old stories, and the old the stories that I was told or I have read, it's just amazing, to know that you come from that. You that's a part of who you are. Your ancestors practiced these ways, and they received these amazing visions and these prophecies, that actually came true. Like our chiefs, they saw like the buffalo disappearing. Like one of them, he saw these buffaloes going into a hole into the ground, and they just all went out. And then there was another hole that came up, and cows, cattle were coming up, and the cattle were there instead of the buffalo now.
Oh, wow.
They saw that a long time ago, and they saw the big old long iron snake, which was the trains, the trains that come through the land before they even got here. Like, so they've seen those things in their visions, and they always had that wisdom, for the tribe, that creative spirituality always showed them, the best way, what to do for their people.
Yeah, Darren, you should try one of those. Go on like a vision quest and try some peyote.
I could get into all that, man. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
What about the sweat lodges and stuff like that? Do you do much of that, or have you tried those?
Yeah,
Graham does quite a bit of sweat
Well,
lodging.
I used to. I haven't in a while, but I used to. I should do it
Yep,
again.
definitely. We got sweats. Like everybody's practice sweats, back home. It's a normal part. Like if you drive through our res, in Crow, you'll see a lot of those, just in people's backyards. They'll have like a bunch of boards up, and they know they have a sweat there. So that's all over. People always practice sweat.
Right on.
I haven't tried that yet either.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should do that.
I'm always spooky that it's going to be one of those, like, I read that one story out of that one down in Arizona where all those people died, and now I'm just like, I'm just going to go to some sketchy, it's like, but I guess you've tested a few out.
Yeah,
that,
man.
are on the
people
up and
do.
up.
Yeah, people do them properly up here, and they're not abusing the, that whole process, and it's good. Yeah, it's good for you. So, what are your plans in the next couple of years with music and traveling? And are you going to continue on with all that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Like, we just had an amazing, as I was telling you, we collaborated with Taboo, from the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
And so when he reached out to me and we ended up making that song for Standing Rock, that was like a major move, like in what I do, with music, because when we made that and put it out, like MTV freaking nominated that video we made for a VMA award.
Wow.
They nominated it, and so we went to the VMAs this past summer.
That's awesome.
So we went down to the VMAs. We walked the red carpet. We saw Cardi B over here. DJ Khaled here, Kendrick Lamar. All these superstars were there. And we were there too. Mag 7, our crew. All natives. We were all there, and we made that representing something good. And really, really powerful, which was that medicine of water. Standing Rock, and the message of that movement. So we went there, and we ended up, they gave the award to everybody, and we ended up winning, an MTV VMA award, which is like huge, so that, like, I checked my Google right after that, and bam, it came right up, MTV VMA award winner, which is like, that's amazing. People dream about that. Artists all over the world dream about winning a VMA award, and, we won that. And so that was a major stepping stone in what I do and what we're doing. And Taboo kind of like he's running with that, like he has this vision of because he's worldwide, Black Eyed Peas. I mean, they did the Super Bowl, 7-time Grammy Award winning. They're just amazing, worldwide artists. And Taboo, he's native Shoshone, and he's connected, with the community, and he's reaching out more to Native community nowadays. He had his fight with cancer, and so that kind of like gave him a different perspective on life, and he's like starting to serve and do more, like for the people, like really changed him and affected him. And so he always, was with Black Eyed Peas worldwide, and he never used his Black Eyed Peas card, to take an artist and say, hey, check this guy out, this is, look at these guys. Hey, world, look at these guys, with his Black Eyed Peas platform. And so that's what he wants to do, with us native artists. There's Devin of us on there. There's Jesus. There's Kahara Hodges, who's Dene Navajo. There's PJ Vegas, who's Yaqui. There's the two Seminole brothers from down there in Florida, Spencer and Doc. And then there's MC1, who's Osage. And so he's taken all of us and kind of like we've been recording like crazy, like we got a project ready to go, and we're looking to make like a documentary, hopefully, and putting it out maybe on Netflix or some platform like that, and then our music is going to be the soundtrack to that documentary, and so it's going to be like a really great move, for us and for myself.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear that. Yeah, that's big news. What, so you've been going hard now for, the better part of a decade. What would you say is the biggest surprise of your career so far, positive and negative?
Biggest surprise got to be that one, the positive of winning the VMA, like if you would have asked me this like last year, I wouldn't have even thought that I would be going to the VMAs, let alone taking one home, I wouldn't even have been thinking of it. So that was a huge surprise and a blessing so far. And also it's just the love, that I'm constantly been shown, all over the world, and just people being affected by the music that I make, like I'm constantly hearing people, they hit me up in the inbox and say, hey man, do you want to say I was about to kill myself, and things like that, like the stories I told you guys before. I hear that, like on the regular of people saying, thank you for making music because I was like this, and now, I trying to go in a positive way. So the effect is always a really positive thing that I enjoy, in this career, and it continues to grow. Let's see, the negative part that comes with it is probably I love touring. I love touring all these years, but now there's a part of me that just wants to be home, with my family. Yeah. I value that more. Yeah. Like I used to value going and being in the public and performing, and feeling that good vibe and energy from the people in the crowd. And now it's changed. It's the opposite. I mean, I truly do enjoy that still, of course. Yeah. But I just love being with my family more, like staying home with my kids, just being in their presence, because you never get that time back. You'll never get that time back when you're away from them. And I believe that's the most important thing. I can honestly say, going to the VMAs and winning a VMA award, it was awesome seeing all the celebrities and being at the height of all of that Hollywood type of image, like just seeing it and being a part of it is pretty dope. It's awesome. But it's like, it's nothing compared to being, the love of your family and the love of your wife and your kids is way beyond, any kind of award or any kind of success, in that way. Being truly successful is being a family man to me, is having a wife and my kids with me, and them being healthy and provided for. That's success right there.
Yeah, man, the simple things, just those simple things in life. Appreciate them more. Yeah.
We got a question from our jingle maker here and our resident musician in the crowd. He's wondering if you have any. He's got two questions. One is if you have any vocal warm-up secrets that you'd be willing to share with him, and the other is if you're aware of this current 432 hertz music trend, and if you have any thoughts on it.
Ooh.
Let's see. Vocal warm-ups, I'd say, man, I don't really do any. I'll just usually perform like in my car before I'm getting to a gig. I'll slap on a beat and I'll like kick a verse out, and then I'll make sure my voice is like this and I sound raw, you know what I'm saying, like that, and make sure it's like warmed up in a good place. Just doing a couple of verses, and I'm comfortable with that. And then the 32 hertz or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't, I don't know the trend, but I know I've gone to YouTube and I've seen these sounds that have healing. Certain sounds bring healing. Certain frequencies bring peace, and like things like that. And even just in myself, I'm seeing that. As a musician, I was like, I want to make music with that kind of frequency. Like just make some beats with that frequency, and just all the more power, to that vibe of healing.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think that's part of the trick of it too. Is that, I mean, we even went on that podcast where Buddy was recording all his shows in 432 hertz because it's some ancient resonance that's been, whether by design or by accident, has been kind of switched up for the ease of technology.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your experience like at Standing Rock? Were you there and through all that, or some of that at least as well? Or?
Yeah. I went over there 4 different times just to see it. I took my family the first time, and man, it was awesome because you saw the momentum, start to grow and grow. And I've been going to Standing Rock for years, like back in the day, like I would always get invited over, to do their youth conference and do different shows over there. And so it was kind of close to my heart, those people, because I've been there before working with their youth, over time. And just to see that movement, start from the youth. The youth is they're the ones that started that movement. They ran to DC and they had this vision, and they're the ones that created that whole vision. And that's what we did too. We also gave them props. Like, yeah, we won a VMA and all that, but really they won it. Like they're the reason why we got that. Like that award. It's really their award. Like they started that movement. And so, yeah, we went over there, took my family, just driving into camp, seeing all the different cultures and how the whole world came together, different cultures, not just native and not just tribes, like enemies came, like we're Crows, Apsalaga and they're Lakotas. So our tribe went and took like 700, or like, I don't know, like 700 pounds of buffalo, or they took all this water, like we went over there and smoked a pipe with them too. Our leaders, our chairman, smoked a pipe with their chairman, their leader, their 2 chiefs. They smoked a pipe together, and that hasn't happened, in a long time.
Wow.
So that was really powerful, just that in itself. And just to see and feel, like when you go to that camp, you could feel the love and the strong medicine, that was there, because people were just selfless over there. They're just always serving one another, and it was good times. You look on this side, people are having a peyote meeting. You look on this side, you can hear some round dance music. Over here, they're having some kind of, powwow, or, there's just different kinds of cultures going on all over that camp. And it was amazing to see and just to feel.
Right on.
Before we start to wrap it up, we probably got a whack of new listeners since our last chat for sure. I was wondering if you just want to kind of take a few minutes, and if you had just anything that we haven't addressed here in the interview so far that you want to get out to all the ears, because there's a huge demographic of our audience. I mean, just due to the technology of it, that is kind of in that coming of age group of, say, 18 to 30, I would say is our biggest demo. So I was just wondering if you have anything to sort of say to them.
Yeah, just to say anybody, just in life in general, like we're all privileged, to be on this earth at this time, like when I walk through the streets, I don't see everybody as strangers, like I don't know them. Like those are my brothers and sisters that I get to experience, this time on this earth, right now is like we're all here together. Like when you have that kind of perspective, and know how short, this life is. Like all the things that we focus on, there's plenty of causes to fight for. There's plenty of things to, stand up for and speak out against and highlight and injustices and all of that. To me, when it all comes down to it, is just that love. Like I think if we all grasp the reality of how short, this life is on Earth, we'd love our families more. We'd love each other more, be more kind, and we'd let a lot of things go that really we value that really don't have any value. You know what I mean? It's like the things that we value. Like there's a quote that I always say, our biggest fear shouldn't be of failure. It should be at succeeding in life at things that don't matter. Our biggest fear in life shouldn't be a failure. It should be at succeeding in life at things that don't matter. So I think just looking at life itself and how short it is will give us a different perspective on the things that really matter, in life, which is the love of our families, time spent with our children, and doing things that are, to help people, serving one another. I think when it all comes down to it, that's probably the most important thing that I could say to anybody, is get that perspective on life, because it's just here today, gone tomorrow, And when you see your relatives and your loved ones and they pass away and you see them laying there, that's what you want. You wish you had more time with them, to tell them that you love them, or, you just wanted to spend that few more laughs with them, and I think that those simple things like that are the most important. You didn't think about how much the person, owed you money, or, like their ambitions or successes, or, we don't really think of those things. We just think of time spent, with one another.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, that's pretty good message. No one can argue with that, no matter what culture they're from. I don't think.
Yeah.
Do you have a website, or where's the best place for our listeners to track you down if they're just hearing about you for the first time? Can I still play one of your songs at the end of the thing, or will it get flagged as a copyright?
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, definitely.
I'll give it a whirl for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might get flagged on.
Yeah, you bet. But
I'll email him and say Christian said it's okay.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you the email back saying, yeah, it's all good. But Supaman, you just Google Supaman, Supaman. All my stuff usually comes up. Or you can go at Supaman Hip Hop on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I think is /GreasyFace.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I know. My kids are always getting a kick out of the Instagram, so there's a lot of cool stuff on the Instagram. I watched the Rubik's Cube video the other day.
Yeah, it's dope.
Well, thanks a lot.
I guess that's about it. Do you have any questions before we wrap up, Jared?
No, I'm good, man.
Nope.
It's been super interesting, though.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, thanks for your thoughtful answers. It's really good to chat again. And maybe if you do come out with that documentary and all that, maybe we should just either have you back on or at least let us know so we can plug it for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Is it cool if I plug my new album? I got a new album that just came out this year in January. So it's called Illuminatives. Anybody out there want some good music? It's dope, man. I got Northern Cree on there. Got my Mona Yosef, who was just on Sway in the Morning. Passionate MC, Wake Cell. A lot of great artists on this album called Illuminated. So check that out. It's on all social or all media outlets, iTunes. You can order it from me, my website, CDs, and all that good stuff.
Which one do you think? Which one should I play out the episode with? Do you think off that album?
Maybe you could play Somewhere featuring Northern Cree or Godly Warriors. Those ones are nominated for the award, Godly Warriors, featuring Passionate MC. Yep.
Okay, and we did have one last question before we let you go from our in-house producer here, Brody, who also is a
All right.
vocalist in his own right. He was asking how you came up with your name, Supaman.
Yeah, yep. It's a question that I get asked a lot. I was actually heading to a DJ battle when I was a DJ, and I didn't have a DJ name. And so me and my friend were just like, he was like, we're almost there. You need a new name, bro. You know, like come up with something. You know, I was going by DJ Chris, which is pretty weak. So he's like, just use it. he's like, use a comic book character, bro. Just come up with a comic book character, you know. And he's like going through the list of the Punisher, Green, you know, just different names. And finally we were almost there. He's like, just use Superman, you know, just use Superman, you know, like Red Man, Method Man. You can just use Superman, you know. And I was like, all right. And he said, especially it's kind of off the wall, you know. People will be like, who's this guy using Superman? Who does he think he is? You know, and they'll be kind of drawn towards that name. And so I used that name in that DJ battle, and I ended up winning that battle. And it was kind of in the paper and then on TV.
Oh, there you go.
And so I was like, oh, got a little promotion from it, so I just kept it.
Yeah, you can't after that.
Yeah.
After winning that, you got to keep it. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty funny because that's really not too far off from how Grimerica came to be. Just kind of slapped together last minute. We need a name. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Right on, Chris. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We'll definitely keep in touch, and we'll have you back if that documentary comes out, or either way, we'll have you back on in a couple of years and figure out where you're at. We'll touch base. And if you've got my number, so if you're coming to Alberta or BC or any place close by, definitely shoot me a text because we don't mind driving a few hours to come and take in a show.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. We'll do it.
All right.
Right
buddy.
on. Drive safe.
Thanks.
Okay, brothers. Have a good night.
Okay. Take care.
Peace.
That was a chat with Superman, number 2. That was a great one.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I love how thoughtful his answers are. You can throw any question at him, and he actually comes at it from a very genuine, thoughtful place. You know, you don't get that.
It comes through every time.
You don't get that with all the guests, right? A lot of people are stuck in their sort of like their whole they've got their paradigm. Spiel, like they've got their spiel, right? He just comes up with
it definitely
very
happens a
genuine
lot.
answers. You know.
It's
Yep.
Oh, hang on a
Sorry.
sec, buddy. All right.
There we go. So yeah, it's nice because you definitely do get a bunch of people that are kind of stuck in their spiel, and it's hard to get them off. And it's nice to have that.
It's
where he's really
It was very genuine too.
thinking about those answers before he talks to you, and it's not a pre-programmed response.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're probably a different interview for him too, I would imagine.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, because he
That's
could
great.
just, you know, he's probably getting up there in that fame now, especially after that thing where he's probably gonna end up being a little more pre-programmed in a way in the next few years. So it's good to.
Yeah,
He's going establishment.
couple gems.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've already gone.
He's going illuminative.
Yeah, we've already gone establishment here in Grimerica, so
Congratulations.
yeah, we're corporatized now.
I was
guess.
gonna ask him if he's got the tap on the shoulder, if he's been approached by the Illuminati to send a special message through his hip hop.
Oh, we should establish a code now of how we're going to let our listeners know when we get tapped on the shoulder.
Oh, we should do that. Yeah, the little code.
We'll think of something. Email us.
That'd be like her. Did you say safe word?
Yeah, email Graham.
It's got to be pineapples.
Email us in some ideas for a phrase we can say on the show that you guys will know we've been compromised, but we don't get shot.
But
and
shouldn't there be one? Shouldn't there be one that we've been at? Like, not that we're compromised.
I saw
but we're,
3
we're
owls
thinking
fly
about it.
through
Like
a
we're
ring.
asked.
It's just me being here. You've been compromised.
Yeah, that's.
And are you the new handler?
He's the new handler.
Yes,
He
I
just
am.
showed up. I thought about it. He's kind of, he could be like intelligent.
We go
looking,
through.
tall, handsome
He's traveling
guy,
all the time.
He's traveling all the time.
MI5.
We go
He's
through.
dropping off a bug in the studio right now.
We go through so many handlers. They just can't handle us. It's like, these guys are dorks, man. I'm not fucking hanging around. Bingo bango.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was fun. Yeah.
So yeah, do check out all of Superman's work. It's there's a bunch of great songs. We'll have some links in the show notes. Check out the first episode. I think it's grimerica.ca/EP137 or something. I know it's episode 137. There's a couple tracks on there.
It'll be in the show notes too.
Yeah, there's a couple of tracks on there, and there'll be some tracks in this one. So check that out. While you're surfing around the interwebs, check out the support page, grimerica.ca/support, and support the platform that allows us to interview everyone from authors to theorists to conspiracy theorists to academics to hip-hop artists, and not have to fucking answer to anyone or clear it with anyone other than you guys.
Well, and you know what? And not for him to have to finish up an answer super quick because there's a commercial break.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I mean, we can just have these chats without worrying about any interruption and go as long as we absolutely want. And we're willing to do that, and it's good because we kind of leave it up to the guests as well. So, but we can only do that with your support.
So support us, please.
Yeah.
If you're getting some value from the show, this number, I don't know, 283 or something like that. If you're loving it, send some love our way. Grimerica.ca/support. A bunch of different options there. If you can't do that, check out all the ways in the show notes you can support us that don't cost you any money. I think that's about it.
Thanks.
Big thanks to Brody. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me,
good to
guys.
see you, buddy.
Thanks
Yeah.
for helping me see where the magic's made. Yeah.
Right on.
That's it. It's pretty fucking anticlimactic. All right,
It does the job.
guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Oh yeah, and we should probably say goodbye to
Yeah, we can
live
take a
people,
minute
too.
to say goodbye to
Yeah.
the live people.
Yeah.
I just want to
Can't
get the
forget about-
recording
Can't
cleared up
forget
here.
about that.
Big
Thanks for
thanks to
joining us on
you,
Last Minute. Yeah.
you motherfuckers. Do we still keep calling it last minute?
We should. It was Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's not even the
Oh,
regular
that's right.
Wednesday, and it is. I put a thing in the chat.
We should start.
After we
We
were
should
already,
start putting all that
halfway
in
through.
the newsletter again.
We should just
We should
make
talk
the
to
newsletter
Justin.
to send it out for
It should come out
this.
on Monday with all the, and this should be the highlight of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should focus on this maybe, and we should talk about it every intro. We forget to talk about it.
How'd
we
the
should just, I
stream
should just
do
make a list
anyway,
of
guys?
stuff
Let
we
us
should
know
talk
how the stream did, if it's getting any better. I mean, we just fucking shelled out money for the new internet connection, and it still dropped off. But how'd we get through that one, Brody?
Dropped to the bit rate, like I cut it in half.
And it worked?
It was more steady, yeah. Much better.
How'd the live feed go, you fucks? Yeah, we do need a bat signal. That's what the bat signal is, though, is the newsletter. So sign up for the newsletter. I
Yeah.
can't think of a better bat signal than
Well,
that.
in the chats.
Or if you hit that alarm thing on the YouTube, I
And
think
yeah, we should go through that though. We should just do a little bit more of a detailed intro, talking about how to do that stuff.
I wonder if we could somehow hook up both internets so that it just picks whichever one's working better.
It would drop out every time I had to switch them.
That's right. Huh. Just can't fucking win. Actually, a bunch of people are saying it went pretty well. So that's good.
That's a good sign.
Things are looking up.
Maybe because it wasn't on his video. Does that make a big difference? You think?
No, it shouldn't anymore because the Skype's run on this separate internet connection.
All right. Okay.
Anyway, thanks, motherfuckers. Ciao.